you so much, Claudia. Good morning, everyone. Again, as Claudia said, thank you so much, everyone, for being here in this webinar today. Um, the focus of today, it will be to cover, right? What is the platform benefit? What is the benefit of moving to Vision One? This is something we've been covering already for some time, right? Last year with all our workshops and webinars for all our partners, but this will be more or less like a catch up, an overview of the benefit of the platform against worry-free as a tool. Then what is the offering expansion that you will get by moving or updating the whole ecosystem, the security operation to Vision One as a platform, a feature comparison between worry-free as a solution and Vision One as a platform, what is in for you, what is the improvement that you will get for the whole security operation, and then we'll have a view, a step-by-step overview of how it works, the migration tool for worry-free, right? Now, let's start with the beginning, the modernization of the security operation, right? Something that we already been discussing or we already view in the last few webinars last year regarding the modernization. We already saw how or what are the challenges, right, for the whole security operation. You might have more than one tool, more than one dashboard with many alerts, which all this information because they are all different or separated, let's say, tools, and they have their own data lake, their own dashboard. All that information is siloed. There's no automatic correlation. So what happens in there is that the team is always chasing alerts because there's no correlation. There are more works always running behind the clock, and this produces a team overload, right? There might be running out capacity, and that makes it harder to expand the service offering. And and the idea or the best practice is to consolidate all that information in only one place, right? One view where you have all the capabilities or the ease of management for the whole security operation in only one place. It's not only about just have the view, but as well tools that helps you to correlate all the data sources that you ingest into that environment. And not only about integrate or having all those data sources from specific solutions in one place, but as well about the ecosystem integration. When you have that security operation is for your own interest and as well the end customer to integrate all the tools that they already have in place. That's very important when you analyze what platform or how it's going to build the environment. That's also a very strategic decision when choosing what tool you're going to put in place. And not only that, but as well, if we add the capabilities for the multi-tenancy, that way you can escalate all the work, all the actions to the whole customer base, making all the security operation more easy for management, right? And the other benefit is that the whole platform, of course, is powered by our over 35 years of experience as a specialized cybersecurity vendor, right? And also powered by our agentic AI engine that is under the hood, the whole platform that will be correlating, will be analyzing the whole environment, the whole ecosystem in a seamless way. Now, regarding the expansion, when we talk about what are the possibilities of expansion, solution-wise, what you'll have with the platform is go beyond the email and endpoint security, right? We have all the tools for the cyber risk exposure management, for the risk analysis, exposure analysis, vulnerability analysis. How is the ecosystem configured? Is there any vulnerability on the endpoints? What is the usage of the accounts? Are there bad practices for the accounts by the users? All that information gives you a lot of context to start focusing on the security operation with a proactive approach, right? That's the future. The proactive security is the future for the security operation. As well, with all the security operations tools that we have, this section here, we're talking all the features that works with the XDR, the automatic correlation, the log ingestion for integrating third parties to the whole environment, and as well all the tools for threat intelligence that has all the threat intel feeds with the zero-day initiative, which is our vulnerability program, where we get and we announce many vulnerabilities in the market. Is the biggest one, the one that TrendAI has ownership for vulnerability announces and vulnerability discovery. We have around the 70% of vulnerability discovery in the market. And as well, of course, all the capabilities or all the solutions that are native in Vision One to protect the whole environment. So not only we have the endpoint security and email security, we also have the possibilities to protect the identity, protect all the environment in the cloud. It doesn't matter if it's AWS, Google Cloud Project, Azure. We also can protect Alibaba and Oracle Cloud, and all the tools for network security and AI security as well, right? So that's solution-wise, that's the technology. But regarding the operation, right, what benefit do we have with the platform? What can we bring to the whole security operation? When we talk about worry-free services with XDR, when we looked at the whole security operation, what we can see is that with worry-free, of course, we have the XDR. The XDR will be correlating with CAS, right? With Cloud App Security for the email and only with CAS. That's what we're going to see in the XDR. There are no options to add or to ingest into the XDR analysis the network security, nor the zero trust security access or the zero trust security technologies. And for the identity security, we know at this point that, of course, worry-free can integrate, can connect with Vision One for to have visibility of the identity security. In Vision One, we can configure or integrate with a third-party integration with, for example, Entra-ID, Okta, OpenLDAP, or Google Cloud Identity to have visibility of the account usage, right? That will be part of the identity security. But when we talk about the security operation, when we talk about the automatic correlation to have a seamless context in only one view, unfortunately, worry-free does not integrate, does not ingest this data to the XDR analysis. As I said, of course, we can connect worry-free to Vision One to integrate worry-free to the cyber risk exposure management analysis. But as an integration, all this analysis happens in the Vision One console. So it won't be part of the worry-free XDR correlation. It will be like two different data lakes, two different data sources, and two different dashboards for the exposure vulnerability analysis and the XDR analysis that happens on the worry-free manager console. We won't be able to integrate with cloud security solution. And regarding mobile security, just as a reminder, mobile security is possible, is included in worry-free, but this is like a complementary solution for the mobile security. It does not correlate with the XDR. There are no XDR for the mobile security in worry-free and has no MDM integration. And regarding the Siemens or via API, the only capabilities that we have is outbound. We can send, we can forward the events in worry-free via API. There are no integrations out of the box that has to be configured or set up with APIs, and it's only outbound. So there are no benefits of ingesting external logs to the XDR in worry-free for the correlation and analysis of the whole security operation. In Vision One, as a platform, of course, we have the benefit that all the native sensors, that mean that any solution that is part of the Vision One platform, when it is deployed, all the data sources are part of the XDR analysis. We have the sensor for endpoint security, email security, cloud security, identity security, etc., and mobile security. All any of the solutions that we have in Vision One, when are set up and the sensor is enabled, will be part of the automatic correlation and automatic analysis of the XDR. Of course, we'll be able to include the network detection and response analysis, all that telemetry to the XDR, and it will be correlating all the assets that are analyzed. The same for the zero trust, the zero trust security access, the security, the CRM, when we have the XDR, all the analysis, all the vulnerabilities of the assets, the accounts, it will be visible in the XDR, which will give you a very easy context for analysis of all the detections that we have in the security operation. And regarding mobile security, the difference of mobile security between Worry-Free and Vision One, Vision One has a proper enterprise mobile security solution, which will be part of the XDR analysis as well as part of the for example, lateral movements or any indication of an advanced attack will be part of the XDR. But very important as well, as a mobile security enterprise solution, it will have integration with MDM solutions as well. And for the Siemens OR, what we have is the possibility to ingest all the logs from third party, right? As long as it's, for example, SEF logs or sys logs, will be able to make them part of the environment, and that will be part of the whole XDR analysis, XDR correlation, and one view in one platform, which will give you a lot of power of integrating the whole ecosystem that customers already have. So there is no need to try to remove or let's say replace solutions that already have to be part of the ecosystem. Everything can be integrated in the platform and have a very good synergy of all the tools that all the customer and partners are using for the security operation. Now, regarding the expansion of services, how you can position or add value to the services that you already provide. With all the tools technology-wise, with this automatic correlation, with this possibility of integrating everything in one platform, you'll have at your fingertips all the information or the features that you need to start expanding your services. For example, consultancy for risk management. The end customer will be able to have that information in front of them, but you are the specialist. You are the ones that have the experience. They might not know how to use that information to improve the cyber resilience of the whole ecosystem. So that's one point or one service that you can expand with your offering, which is the consultancy for the risks that are found on the environment. As well, with all the information that you get, you'll know exactly what are the vulnerabilities, the weak points that are in the environment, and it will be easier for you to book, for example, more on-site hours for technicians to fix and mitigate even proactively all those vulnerabilities found in the ecosystem, misconfigurations, to increase the cyber resilience of the whole security operation of the organization before a threat happens, right? Before a breach happens. As well, having all the visibility of what is the user behavior, um, what is the identity security, how they use the accounts, which applications they use, what is their reputation. You'll be able as well to offer user training, right? User behavior and training consultancy or services to your whole service portfolio, advice or consultancy for the account posture. How are the accounts configured? Are there any overprivilege in the accounts? Is there any unmanaged admin account that has been created by this account, or has someone a global account, for example, a global admin account without MFA configure? All those misconfigurations that could be fall into the cracks, you'll be able to see it and, of course, do the management. Either you can do a consultancy advising the end customer when there is a weakness on the configuration, or why not, you could position your services to manage the whole ecosystem for them. The same thing for the tools to be able to see if there is any compliance issue, if they want to know, for example, if they're compliant for GDPR, for NIS2, ISO 27001. You have the tools to, in an easy manner, to see if they are compliant to of those regulations and set up or change in the configuration, improve the whole security operation to be compliant to those regulations. And of course, endpoint email security consultancy by being able to follow if the end customer if they are managing, for example, the security operation, you just do MDR. You can also sell or position services for consultancy by being able to see what is the health of the group policy configuration. That's another service that you could expand. Now, comparing again some features differences between Worry-Free and Vision One as a security operation, and this will be with this I'll be as well doing an overview of what I discussed today so far. I already mentioned with Worry-Free, of course, that we have the XDR only with email with CAS. Something I didn't point out is that in Worry-Free, the analysis is endpoint centric. That means if we have different, let's say, advanced attacks in more than one endpoint, there won't be any correlation between endpoints. Each alert is per endpoint, and the advanced threat that we can see, of course, we'll see the whole analysis of how how was the history and details of that threat itself, and correlate if it's related to an email campaign. But this won't be an analysis for the XDR if the threat only happens or remains at the email level. If there is a lateral movement happening at the email level, we won't be able to see it in the XDR. That's one limitation that Worry-Free has as a technology. And as well for the security operation itself, the management and logs and visibility of the security in the endpoint happens in Worry-Free. For the email happens in email, and the logs are not necessarily correlated unless there is um, an XDR detection. So still is kind of a little bit fragmented, the security operation, as we have two consoles where all the security happens, right? There are no integrations available for Worry-Free. There is no correlation with CRM in the XDR itself, right? Of course, again, we do have the integration with CRM, but the analysis for CRM happens in Vision One, and the XDR analysis and security happens in Worry-Free. And with the XDR itself, we have a limited response action. In Worry-Free, we have isolate endpoint, start an aggressive scan remotely, block manually an object, delete and quarantine emails. Those are the 5 actions that we have in the XDR detection in the XDR analysis or event in Worry-Free. Whereas in Vision One, we have a complete XDR, as I mentioned before. Any data sources that are ingested in the platform will be part of the whole analysis. All the internal or native sensors will be part of the XDR. Third-party integrations that are connected, and as well the log ingested with the AI SIEM capabilities will be part of the XDR analysis. With workload security, what we'll have, well, in the endpoint security side of things, we have two solutions: standard web protection, that is a specialized solution for user-based devices, and workload security, workload and server security, or server protection, that is a specialized server security solution. And with both solutions, we'll be able to protect Windows, Mac, and Linux, and as well legacy Windows operative system. We'll have features for case creation. We also have automation with playbooks to automate all those routine tasks and ease all the workload for the security team. As well, we have what we mentioned, native cloud security solutions, and as well third-party integrations, like for example with Shira, Fortinet, FortiGate, Entra ID, Okta, Google Cloud Identity, all those integrations that are already out of the box and are very fast and easy to configure. And as well, the AI SIEM capabilities for log ingestion, and as well, not only for analysis, if there is a requirement for compliance in the security operation or in the organization, where they just need to store logs, for example, for an IP camera, we can store those logs as well for compliance without the need to be part of the security operation. And as well, in the platform, we have our AI companion app, or our AI assistant. It will be our internal, let's say, security chat GPT in the platform that will help the whole analyst or security team to analyze what we see, or to find information in the platform itself, in the whole events and detections that we have, which will make easier the whole security operation, right? And faster. Of course, everything in one platform. And what big difference regarding the support that the endpoint security has is that with Vision One, we have the coverage for ARM CPU devices, right? That's something that we don't have with Worry-Free. With if you have a security operation where you start to see that there are some devices that have ARM CPU, so for those devices or for that security operation, it's best to modernize to Vision One to cover everything, all the devices in only one place, right? Now, regarding the migration tool, now I'll start with the demo for the migration tool. What I'll do is, because I can't set up live the whole migration, because there are some factors in the migration steps itself that takes time. For example, creating the account, creating the server for the standard error protection, the solution that lives in Vision One. I'll show you step by step via one set of screenshots that I have for how it looks like the migration process for Worry-Free to Vision One. But later, don't worry, I'll show as well the console where you can find all the options that are needed to perform the migration. So we'll see it both in slides and in the console as well. Now, something to clarify regarding the tool is that, well, I mentioned that in a previous training as well, at the end of last year. The migration tool will be doing in phases. We'll have 3 phases in the whole migration for the whole migration tool. Right now, we are in phase 1. What does this mean? The scope of this tool is for worry-free services only, or CAS and TMS. But as a, let's say, standalone license. If we have a standalone license for worry-free services, CAS or TMS, we'll be able to perform the migration right away out of the box. What's not in scope? All the worry-free bundles, advanced, XDR, and co-managed are not in scope for the migration tool at this point, right, in the phase one. What does this mean? What it means is that because what we want to do is before enabling out of the box the worry-free bundles, we want to have in place all the tools that are, let's say, like for like as with the remote manager, so the security operation is not affected at least it's not affected right away, right? So what happens here? If you have a critical customer with worry-free advanced or worry-free XDR bundle that you will need to migrate, this is possible, but via request. What you do is you contact to your account manager, to your contact in Trend, and what we can do is request for that customer to be added to exclusion list, so the tool becomes available and you will be able to perform migration without any problem. You can do the migration for the agents for worry-free, and then you can do the migration of the email solution to the same Vision One console. And after that configuration is done, you enable the XDR and everything will be working as well right away. But the difference is that if you are using, for example, for the XDR analysis, in the remote manager, you use it as part of your whole security ecosystem. At this point, right now, we don't have that feature still enabled in the Vision One for service provider platform for the Vision One solution. That's why we don't have it enabled out of the box. We have the expectation, the roadmap to have this very soon, around Q3, Q4 this year. We don't have that yet, but as long as we start to enable those features that can cover those capabilities that we had in the remote manager for Vision One, will be on the phase two, for example, to enable out of the box this tool of migration for the migration for the worry-free bundles, advanced, and XDR. And on the phase three, we'll be enabling that for the co-manage, the worry-free XDR co-manage bundle when we have ready the co-manage MDR for Vision One. Another thing that is not in scope right now is policy migration. That means that when you migrate an agent from worry-free to Vision One, the policy that you had, the policy groups that you have in worry-free won't be replicated automatically into standard endpoint protection into the Vision One endpoint security solution. But there are a few tips that I can give you to as a workaround to manage this, and that will be a very way to sort out that policy configuration, which is with policy templates, right? Now, moving to how is the setup to perform the migration for worry-free. First of all, something that we have to make sure is when we want to migrate a customer, it has to have worry-free business security services, not a bundle, as I just mentioned. Or if this customer has a bundle, to make sure to contact us first so we can add them to exclusion list and enable the tool for this customer, right? In this case, we'll be using, we use this Amint O2 as part of the whole migration lab. First of all, as I said, we need either to add this customer to exclusion or have a worry-free service plan only, no bundles. Then, what we'll do is, first of all, the first step is make sure that this customer has already a Vision One platform deployed. Without a Vision platform, we can perform the migration because there has nowhere to go. We need a Vision One platform deployed. To deploy the Vision One platform for this customer, we can do it from customer management, customer overview, find the customer, and click on provision. When we click on the provision button, we'll see this view. Here is where we'll be choosing the data center. We have to make sure that the center is Germany because of GDPR reasons, right? The Germany data center for the accounts that are created in Europe are set as Germany as default, but it's always a good practice to double check that effectively that data center for that Vision One console is in Germany. The auditor account can be left empty. This field is if you want to grant a read-only access to that Vision One console to the end customer. Here is where you'll be adding the end customer email to run that access. But if you don't have at this point any contact, you can leave it empty. You can add that later on anyway, so there won't be any problem if you just leave it empty for now. When you click on Start by License, that will start to create the Vision One tenant, the Vision One account for this customer. Once the account has been created, the button will change from provision to view, and that view button, you might already know, that this will be the single sign-on for that tenant for that end customer. Now, the tool for worry-free is not a tool or a software you need to deploy or you need to install nor anything. It's a tool that lives directly in here in the platform. You'll be able to find it in security solutions and endpoint inventory. That's the section where you'll be able to see the tool. And then you have to select here the tab that's called endpoints. And here you see the whole list of your customer base. And in each one of those customers, you'll be able to see what are the agents deployed. And if we are talking about a customer that has at this point a worry-free services agent in there, because is the account to migrate to Vision One, you'll be able to see here in Protection Manager, worry-free services. The only thing you need to do is select the agent that you want to migrate. You can do it by batches. Actually, that's the best practice, right? To do it by batches. So you select all the agents that you want to migrate at this point, and then clicking here this button that says Update Worry-Free Agent. Once that you select Update Worry-Free Agent, you'll see this window with some disclaimer in there, so you are aware of what entails the update or the changes that we'll have. Something very important to take into account is that the update has no rollback, so the update is permanent. There are no direct routes for or a direct path to replace a Vision One endpoint agent to worry-free. Once that this has been migrated, it stays in Vision One. If you want to move them back to worry-free, it will be a replace a scenario where you have to install again the agents. So that's something important. Once that you click on I understand, then click on Accept, you'll be able to see the next step of the migration. Something to take into account is that for a Vision One tenant, when you create a Vision One tenant, let's put it in a way, you don't have the server, the product instance of the standard endpoint protection, the endpoint security solution deployed right away. So at that point, what you need to do is to create a standard endpoint protection instance. This step, what we'll do is double check that tenant, the tenant of this customer, this Vision One tenant for this customer, if it has an instance. If it doesn't have an instance, it will give you the option to create an instance. And here you select the display name. This is just the name that you are assigning to this, let's say, standard protection server or this product instance. Then in region, of course, you need to select Germany. And then a description. This is information only for you. Once that you click create, this step will take around 20-30 minutes to create the server. And once that has been performed, you'll be able to proceed with the update. In this point, what you do Once the product instance is created, you'll be able to select in which group you want to migrate this agent. You can create more than one group in the standard hyper protection, the same as with worry-free, right? And you can select to which group you want to assign this agent that you're migrating. Once that you select the group, you click on update, and that's it, right? Maybe right now, just showing you all the steps looks like too many steps, but actually it's quite straightforward. It's quite fast to do it. It's not complicated at all. And now, in a moment, I'll give you some tips how to prepare the environment to make all these process more seamless and faster when you need it, right? Now, the points to take into account. First of all, what you can do is validate the migration, test that migration with your own NFR accounts. If you don't have it already, you can have your own worry-free XDR NFRs. You can create them directly in the LMP. And as well, you can create your own Vision One NFR. The Vision One NFR will give you 8,000 credits to deploy whatever you want in that tenant in your own internal account, which is completely free with those 8,000 credits, which are more than enough to set up the whole environment with endpoint security XDR, email security with the XDR, and as well CREM is more than enough. Then another thing you have to consider are the challenges regarding bandwidth. If we're talking about a migration that will happen with devices that are on the same building, on the same site, you have to consider the bandwidth that will take because each agent will be downloading and installing the agent of Apex One. So that's something to consider how it will impact the bandwidth. So if you have many devices on the same site, the best practice is to do it by batches as well. If we're talking about remote users, that's no problem because each machine will be connected to their own internet connection, their own network, and it won't really affect the bandwidth for a remote for remote devices. But it's to be considered not to do it all at once when we're talking about all devices that are on the same premises. Servers consideration. Now, this is very important. If you are protecting with worry-free some critical servers, is good to consider if it will be best to update or modernize the protection for that server to server and workload protection instead of standard endpoint protection as a protection service, right? And that's something to consider. And the automatic migration tool that we show today, we're seeing today, does not does not support a migration for worry-free to server and workload protection at this point, at least. So this will be more like uninstalling, installing the agent as well, but you probably you won't have many devices that need that consideration, but it's something to consider, right? If it's a server, a critical server, it's good to consider to migrate it or modernize it to server and workload protection instead of standard endpoint protection. Now, regarding the policy, I mentioned that there is a workaround um, to, uh, to set up a policy template to configure in an easy manner the policy when migrating from worry-free to standard protection. Via the multi-tenancy, you have the option to create a policy template for the endpoint. What you can do for a smooth transition for the migration is first, you can prepare the policy templates in the whole multi-tenancy. Then when you know a customer that will be a target for migration, you can beforehand create the tenant for that customer. Don't worry, you until you start deploying the agent until you start installing agents or migrating the agents from worry-free to Vision One, there won't be any consumption, there won't be any usage on that tenant. So you can do it beforehand without a problem, and you can create that product instance beforehand. If you create that product if you deploy, spin the tenant for that customer and create the product instance beforehand, you will be covered when you want to do or start the migration, and you will be skipping that step of creating the product instance, which is the step that takes more time in the whole process. And by preparing the policy templates, what you can do is directly assign that endpoint policy template to the customer, and you have already done the policy configuration. You might have more or less the same policy set up for most of your customers, or at least the verticals that you use. So you will only need maybe one or two policy templates that depend on how many different type of verticals that you have for your whole customer base. And then you just assign that policy template to all the customers that you start to migrate. And with that, you sort out the policy limitation that we have currently in the migration tool right now, right? Those are the options that you have to prepare the whole, set up the whole environment for a seamless and very fast migration operation for or modernization for worry-free, right? Now, to do a summary of all the steps, what entails in migration, basically what you have is provision the Vision One instance for a worry-free customer, create the standard endpoint instance. This will be that product instance step that I mentioned is good to have beforehand. This is the step that takes most of the time in the whole process. The provision of the Vision One instance, it might take around 5 minutes or so. The creation of the set instance can take between 20 30 minutes, and then upgrading the worry-free endpoints. And lastly, the worry-free agents will be replaced by the Vision One endpoint security core. Just to give you some detail, for Vision One, in Vision One Endpoint Security, we have the core, essential, and pro licenses. It's not in the scope for today to cover those licenses, but any question that you have, please contact your account manager, your partner business manager, that will help you with information for this. But basically, this is the license that is like for like the same capabilities as worry-free services, no bundle. Now, before going to the resources section, let me show you briefly all the steps that we saw just now in the console, right? How would be the process? We were talking about that if we have a customer, what we'll do for the customer first is in this view, what we'll do is search for our customer. Well, in this case, if a customer doesn't have the the console created or the tenant created, this is where you click provision. In here, as you see, data center is set up as Germany as a default, but it's always a good practice to verify that that is selected, because if we messed up in here with the tenant itself, it's not possible to move it, and you need to create a new account again. Um, if we have any partner or any partner that has customer in the UK, currently very recently we added a United Kingdom server as well. And in this part here is where we can grant the end customer with a read-only access. With the start paid license is where we start to spin or create the console for Vision for this customer. And once that it has been created, we'll see this view button, which is the single sign-on access to that Vision One console for this end customer. As I mentioned before, what we'll do here for to start the whole migration process, we do it from here, security solutions, endpoint inventory. Then we select endpoints. Here we'll be able to see all the endpoints that are deployed or are managed in each one of the customer. We'll be able to see here what is the protection manager. If we go here to worry-free migration, we'll be able to see that says worry-free services. When I select this agent, I will be able to update the worry-free agent. In this case, because I already have populated the product instance, I see that I don't have that create product instance section or step. I just have the option to select to which group I want to apply or I want to move this worry-free agent and then click update. As you see, when you follow those steps or those considerations I mentioned 2 slides before, it's just two clicks mostly. Click, select the agent, click update, select the group, update. That's it. And with that, you already started the migration. So easy peasy, right? Now, and one consideration here, when you perform the worry-free modernization, the worry-free migration to Vision One, you can select only one customer at the same time. For example, if I try to do the update for this customer and this customer, right? I won't be able to do it. So first, I need to finish up with this customer. This doesn't mean that I need to wait that all the agents have been migrated, but I can do the step of selecting the group for one customer first. When I finish with this one, I can go directly to the other customer and perform the update for this customer, etc. Right? And then each one of the updates of the agents will be happening on the back end in each one of the devices, right? Now, this case I have here is a customer that has the XDR. I know already that it's an XDR bundle. What will happen with an XDR bundle? I have the option right now. What I need to do is contact my account manager, tell them, okay, I want to migrate this customer. I understand that I won't be able to use the remote manager for now, or I don't have these capabilities for now, but I'm happy to update it. We add that to exclusion list, and this button here will be available from that point, and we'll be able to perform the migration without any problem. And regarding the policy templates, is not in scope for today, but so you know where to go. In the template section, in here, policy templates is where I can create my templates for the endpoints, and to assign the templates, the only thing you need to do is do it from the customer overview, the 3 dots at the end of the customer in here, and then assign template, endpoint policy template. That's how I assign a policy template for the customer, right? So that will be, yeah, that's all. And then regarding resources, the resources that we have available currently are a FAQ for the migration. So, 1 second, show you now. Right, we have this FAQ already in place. All this information will be provided to you, so don't worry about the link. It's something that we'll be providing after the webinar with a follow-up email, and as well from the partner portal, the partner sales library, you'll be able to find as well one one best practice file where you have all the consideration, a lot of stuff we covered today in one PDF. And something very important, very handy in here, you'll also be able to see what is the mapping of the different policies that you have in worry-free services in Vision One. So for example, something to give you very fast in here, one overview is in Vision One, in worry-free, the scan settings for the real-time scan, the behavior monitoring, predictive machine learning appear as separate policies. But if you try to look for this in Vision One, you might not find behavior monitoring and machine learning. That's because when you are enabling the anti-malware policy, you are enabling at the same time behavior monitoring and machine learning. All those 3 layers of protection, those 3 engines are at the same policy level, right? That's something to take into account, but it's very good to have to read the FAQs and as well to have a look to the best practices PDF that you can download from the partner sales library. Now,